Hey everybody, here we are with today's video on the key of C. Before we get into the key of C, I'm going to warn you a little bit. This is a spot that a lot of people get to and start giving up if they're teaching themselves guitar. You're not going to do that because right now you're going to just realize that it can be frustrating for a while, and you're probably going to go through a period of muted strings and maybe your hand hurts a little bit, but that's why we're in this class, to figure it out. So it's good that we're getting to it now. We've got a long time to figure it all out. The chord that most people have trouble with is F. And if you've ever tried that, you know that it can be a little bit frustrating at first. It's not necessarily harder than any other chord. It just takes a little bit more strength. So you need some time to build up strength. You wouldn't expect to be able to lift, bench press 200 pounds right off the bat your first time in the gym. Similarly, you shouldn't expect to get a perfect F chord right away. So why don't we delve straight into that chord so that you can have as much time as you need to work on it. So let's start out back at our C chord. And because F is actually very similar to C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my second and third fingers and I'm going to move them over one string. Over to smaller strings, higher strings. So now, instead of being on the third fret of the A string and the second fret of the D string, my third finger is on the third fret of the D string and my second finger is on the second fret of the G string. Now my first finger, what it's going to do is it's going to stay right where it was, first fret of the B string, but I'm also going to bring it down and kind of back a little bit to cover the E string as well. This is the first time we've had to cover two strings with one finger, unless you've done that other form of A. In this case, this is the way to do it for F. And then you're just going to play the top four strings, just like you did for the D chord. Now, right now, you might be hearing this. And just remember, you want to get closer to the frets, especially with that first finger. And you want to make sure that you're pressing firmly, but not too hard. That's going to really mess up your hand. Also, make sure your thumb is not up here. This is one spot where having my thumb up there gets rid of these arches in my fingers, and it really is going to lead to muted strings. So bring your thumb back around, and you're going to play that F chord. So play around with that for a little while. When you're just playing the F chord, really make sure that you are trying to get every string to sound and trying to get your finger position as perfect as you can. Focus in on that. As we move on into the progressions, if you got some muted strings, don't worry about those. That's not the time to worry about it. That's the time to worry about getting the switches happening a little bit quicker. So let's try the F one more time. This time, start from nothing. So before we started from C, and that's a good switch that we're going to need to learn. This time try starting from nothing. Usually I put my first fingers down and then get these next two. And there we go. So take a moment, copy down the fingering, practice it a little bit. And we're going to go straight into doing a progression from C to F to C to F. It's progression double A, and let's see how it goes. So you're going to start on C, and let's just do the chords first. Pay attention to your thumb. Notice mine was creeping up there. You're going to do the chords first, just C, and now do that switch to F, move the fingers over, and the first finger goes down. There's F, back to C, to F. Now here that time I got the bottom, the A string, which doesn't sound altogether bad with this. It's actually in the chord. We'd rather avoid it, though. Now let's try doing it in time, now that you've got that down a little bit. One, let's just do down, down, up, down, down, up as our strum pattern. 2, 3, and F, C, F. Continue 4 beats each. time on each. And back on C. All right. So my hand was even getting a little bit tired doing that because I'm actually not used to doing that form of F. You'll notice on your sheet you've got two different forms of F. We've got the just regular F and the F bar form. Technically we were barring these two strings. Barring is anytime you play more than one string with just one finger. So if you take that, instead of just doing those two strings, those top two strings, the B and the E, and you go all the way across, all right, you're going to press down all the strings right at the first fret. It's really helpful to get almost right up on top of the first fret, as close as you can get without getting too much muting happening. If you get right on top of it, things start to get dull sounding. So at this point, we're going to pretend, if you pretend like for a second that that is the nut of the guitar, you're going to just put your fingers down as if you were playing an E chord. You're going to leave your first finger there, so it's kind of a different fingering of the E chord. But here is my second finger is on the G string, second fret. It kind of looks like the first fret with that bar down. And then the other two, my third and fourth, are going to go on the third and fourth, the third fret of the A and the D string. And then you can play all of the strings. Now, if that was impossible to you, don't worry about it. Go with the other form of F. We're going to get into bar chords, and there's actually easier ways to learn it. But for those of you who want to venture into the bar form of F, that's great. Go back and practice the C to F switch. It's a little bit, there's a little bit more going on when you've got the bar form there. Let's practice one more progression with F in it before I show you the G7 chord. So progression C, C, double C, is going to go C to our F. Now to G. I like to use the fingering where I use the third, second, and fourth finger, leaving this first finger open, because I can just go, here's F, I can move these straight over, play G, and now I got to go back to F, and now C. So my second and third finger, they don't really need to move relative to each other. They just move over and then back across, and then they just keep the same position, just moving to different strings. So one more time through the chords. C, F, G, F, and back to C. Do that a couple times on your own if you need to. And we're going to try that in time with the down, down, up, down, up. Why don't we do 8 beats on each chord, so 2 patterns. 1, 2, 3, and. To F. Now to G. Back to F. And now C. To F. G. F. Keep going with it. That, you're well on your way to playing F. And again, when you're doing these progressions, at this point, don't worry about some muted strings. Practice the F chord, try to get the best hand position you can. Practice the switches really slowly. Try to get to that great hand position, but then forget about it and just play. Try to not stop because of muted strings. All right, here's the good news is that G7 is a super simple chord. If you go, let's go back to C again. Basically, you're taking the two parts of C and expanding them out. So there's already this gap string in the middle, the G that's open. All right, I'm going to take my two fingers here, and they're going to move out just like if you were playing G. All right, and then instead of putting my pinky down on the 3rd fret of the high E string, I'm actually going to put my first finger over on the 1st fret of the E string. I'm moving the G there to F, which makes a G7 chord. So make sure you got those strings sounding. Go back to C. Now G7. And back to C. G7. And C. So this is progression BB. Alright, I want to try that in time. 1, 2, 3, and 8 beats on each. G7. Back to C. G7. Back to C. And finish on C. All right. So we've got all the basic chords for the rest of these progressions. It's just a matter of putting them all together. Progression DD is very similar to CC, except we go back and we go back to C and land on the C. So let's try that one. Do it once through without strumming pattern. C. Now an F. Then to G. And now C. So let's try it with down, down, up, down, down, up. 8 beats on each chord. 1, 2, 3, and F. G. Back to C. C again. F. G. C. Let's stop right there. So now we're going to go with progression EE. We're going to add in the A minor to the mix. This is a very, very common progression, especially from the 50s. I was using a lot of songs. There's a few songs in the book that use this one. Really, there's nothing particularly new here. Just C to A minor. Now the F, switching from that A minor, go back to the A minor a second, and switch into the F. So get that, that's probably the only switch you'll really need to practice in this, because then we go to G, which you've done plenty, and then back to C. So it's that A minor to F. It's kind of a rotation here. Good. Alright, let's try this one in time a little bit. We'll do it with the same strumming pattern. Down, down, up, down, down, up. 8 beats on each chord. 1, 2, 3, and A minor, F, and G, back to C, A minor, right. Very nice. We're going to take those same chords and switch them around a little bit into another very, very common pattern. This is actually the 4-chord song pattern that you did back in the key of G. Same thing, just in the key of C now. So it's C, G, A minor, F. It's progression F, F. Ready? So C to G, now to A minor, and now to F. Let's do this with some rock strumming. Still 8 beats on each chord. 1, 2, 3, and to G, A minor, F, back to C. So there you have it. It's all of the chords that you'll need to play some basic songs in the key of C. When you're in the key of C and you've got C, F, and G, feel free to try substituting G7 for any G chords that you encounter. Sometimes it might not work, but if you're in the key of C, it might. Don't get hung up on some muted notes on F, like I said. Try to get it perfect when you're practicing just the chord and try to get that going, and then that's probably going to all go out the window when you start throwing in other things. Just do your best to keep going and keep going back to the basics of getting each string to ring when you're just practicing the chords. Keep up some hard work on this. It's really going to pay off, and let me know if you have any questions. See you next time.